In 1 Chronicles chapter 12, we're told about the men of Issachar who understood the times and knew what Israel should do. Now, the Issachar factor, or these men of Issachar, has often been talked about as a motivation for church leaders to be in step with the culture. Different from the culture, distinct from the culture, but at least aware of the culture, conversant with the culture. We ought to live in this world. We ought to be in this world. Not of it, but not out of it either, as Len Sweet has famously said. I don't think there's an area of the church more out of step with our culture than spiritual formation. And here's what I mean. Despite the fact that our world is totally different than it was in first century Palestine, we still somehow sacralize the practices of maybe not Jesus and his followers in the earliest days, but the Desert Fathers, the early monastic communities, the Eastern Orthodox and Catholic saints, all of whom are great. It's just that we don't live in the same world that they do anymore. And there's this kind of yearning among spiritual formation gurus that we would go back to times in the desert of solitude and prayer and retreat like that. In many ways, I think they're right. We do need times of solitude and retreat and prayer. I just don't think it needs to always be like that. Jesus, for example, went out into the wilderness to pray for 40 days one time. The Desert Fathers moved into the wilderness forever and never came back. And there's a very different posture in incarnational ministry than there is in excarnational retreat. All of that to say, I think we need to take a fresh look at spiritual formation. And we need to think about how spiritual formation works best in our world today. And we need to give ourselves permission to reinvent and reinvigorate and rejuvenate spiritual formation so that we're not trying to turn everybody into monks and nuns, and that we're not somehow suggesting that the only true prayer warriors, the only true people who love and serve Jesus are ascetics who live in monasteries. There's got to be a way for ordinary, everyday people to faithfully follow Jesus and grow and practice disciplines without, again, turning into a hermit.